Today I'm speaking to Mary-Jannet Leith ahead of our Evening with Queen Charlotte concert on the 20th of August. Hello Mary-Jannet.
Hello.
So this whole project is really, well, it's your project. You've pulled it all together. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how it came about?
Yes, so actually really interestingly, this project, as a lot of our programmes do, come out of original research. And I'm doing a PhD at the moment about Scottish 18th century music, but actually during that PhD, my funding body, the SWWDTP, they basically encourage you to take a placement. I'd been planning to do a placement in Scotland, but of course COVID put paid to that. So when I saw a placement advertised at the British Library, I was very excited and decided to apply. And I was very lucky to get that placement, and it was looking at the provenance of the Royal Music Library, which is a very exciting and extremely impressive collection of all sorts of different manuscripts and printed music, several thousand volumes that belonged to the royal family over the last few centuries. And during that, I was really looking quite a lot at some 18th century volumes. And excitingly, there are quite a lot of volumes which actually belonged to Queen Charlotte herself.
Right.
And so I was able to have a look at those in real life in the library, and to see them, and of course to gain some idea of the kind of music that she collected.
And were these sort of single volumes of composers, or were they kind of compiled?
Most of the ones that she has were single composers. For example, there is a beautifully bound copy of the Full-Tempered Clavier, Bach, of course, which would have been her own copy.
Amazing.
And various other different things, and of course music which had been dedicated to her as well.
Yeah.
Lots of that, of course.
What sort of, because it must be amazing working with those pieces copies.
Yeah.
What sort of condition are they actually in?
Excellent condition. Yes, I mean, of course, these are pieces of material, books from the 18th century, but particularly the printed music, as some of it looks as if it was printed yesterday, because of course, a lot of these were presentation copies.
Yes, indeed, rather than practical ones.
Rather than practical use.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're covered with lots of pencil marks or whatever. They're for a collection, really. And it's clear that Queen Charlotte had, particular tastes, and really enjoyed music of all kinds. In fact, she, one of her daughters wrote to a friend that her family were absolutely obsessed with music.
Amazing.
So
have you really been able to gain kind of an idea of her sort of musical taste and personality a little bit through looking at these?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, I was very fortunate to have a fellowship with the Georgian Papers Programme. And in that, I decided to have a look at the musical kind of domestic arrangements, I suppose, and interests of Queen Charlotte and George III. So putting the two together, I was really able to sort of get a nice idea of what Queen Charlotte really liked in terms of music. I mean, she also played, so she was a good keyboard player and had lessons frequently, in fact I think twice a week, with J.C. Bach, who was her own music master. She employed countless chamber musicians, pretty much hand-selected from Germany, and so she really encouraged coming in from Germany, a lot of those musicians who we now know very well.
Yeah.
It's just very impressive.
Now, for the actual concert that we're doing on the 20th, we're doing it at 6 Fitzroy Square, aren't we? Which is this most amazing Georgian property. And we're going to be doing it on the first floor, sort of kind of reception room, and we're going to have it beautifully laid out, not so much as a formal concert, but we're going to have kind of little bits of tables and chairs, not sort of in rows, but so that people can kind of enjoy having some tea as though they're at just a musical evening, almost looking in on the sort of casual, fairly regular musical evening that she would have had with friends and family. So that's going to be really fun.
It's going to be great. I mean, we know she had these evenings. There are a lot in her diaries. She records that on Tuesdays and Thursdays at least, and often other times she had, quite sort of semi-formal events in the evening with music and cards and all sorts of interesting, and also tea drinking, which is something we're also going to have. But also she would just have more informal little concerts on Wednesdays, and she would love to organise these kinds of things.
So we're going for the Wednesday.
So we're going for the Wednesday feel. We're going for the Wednesday feel. We're not inviting 200 of the British aristocracy. I can't say aristocracy. There we go.
Now, what about because another interesting part of this performance is going to be the diaries. Some diary entries are going to be read out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a bit about those.
So Queen Charlotte kept a diary, possibly throughout her life, but not all of it has survived. So 1780, right. I think 1789 is the year that we have most for her, and also 1794. And in 1789, she's recording harpsichord practice almost daily.
Fantastic.
That's interesting because by this point, really, the forte piano was the main keyboard instrument. But the king, who hated the forte piano or piano of any kind, wouldn't have anything but harpsichords in the Queen's Lodge. Or indeed anywhere in the royal palaces. So we're actually breaking with that tradition. We are having a forte piano and a harpsichord.
We're having both.
So we're. I think I get the impression Queen Charlotte, who was a bit more forward-thinking than George III, would have rather liked a forte piano, but I don't think it was an option. He really didn't approve.
And we've got Miranda coming in.
And Miranda is going to read from her diaries, and also from these memoirs of her lady-in-waiting, Charlotte Papendiek, these are fantastic sort of anecdotal observations of the musical life of the day, from a female viewpoint as well. From a woman, and it's really fascinating. So you get, descriptions of concerts, really musical descriptions of concerts, right next to really long passages about her baby is doing. It's all mixed in. It's all mixed in. Yeah. It's just the life of a woman at that time, and it's just really fascinating. So our actor Miranda Keeling will also read from those as well, to sort of bring the period to life.
Fantastic. 30 seconds on which composers we're going to have in there.
Okay, well, as well as I. So we're having, of course, J.C. Bach,
as we mentioned before,
and Abel, who was also another of her her chamber musicians.
One of the Well-Tempered Clavier.
Yes, exactly. And also music by Jane Mary Guest, a young woman composer whom Queen Charlotte encouraged and also employed to teach her children. Thomas Arne, to remember the fact that the Queen was a very good singer. Rowan will also be singing The Lass of Petey's Mill, because we know that the Queen sang this at one of her informal evenings. Lots of other things. Grown, one of the headline composers in the Queen's collection. You've said Abel.
Oh, sorry. It is really a mix, because and every single one of these composers, and indeed some of the actual pieces, were specifically mentioned in the diaries.
Exactly, and so there's nothing in the programme that isn't explicitly linked to Queen Charlotte herself. Oh, and not to forget the sonata by Mozart, one of his very early sonatas, which he performed to the Queen and George III in 1764. She requested that he dedicate the collection, I think it's Opus 3, to her. So that's very special as well. So we'll be performing that.
And finally, how on earth did you go about actually putting this all together, from kind of Georgian Papers, British Library, Ensemble Hesperi, music, venue? How did it all? Absolutely, because that is quite an amazing.
It's a lot of work. So I guess all the research was quite gradual, and then I just continued it in my spare time, which I don't have too much of. And then in terms of performance, well, I just wanted to put something together that would be a really interesting and different experience for the audience. Mm-hmm. And of course, in order to put on a project like this, you need funding. So
we've been very lucky with that.
We've been extremely lucky with that. So I had a little bit of funding from the Georgian Papers Fellowship, which is supported by the British Society of 18th Century Studies and also KCL. But then for the remainder of the funding, we applied for a Continuo Foundation grant, and we were extremely fortunate to receive a grant from them as well. And this is a fantastic new grant making body which supports historical performance in the UK. So this has just been brilliant, and as a result we've been able to do the project in a much more full, kind of more interesting way. Without funding, it would have been perhaps
very
quite
difficult.
pared back. But now we've been able to hire a really beautiful venue to purchase 50 teacups. This kind of extra thing,
and with more musical colleagues,
and more musical colleagues. So we have eight performers and also an actor. So we've really been able to bring this to life because of the funding we've received. So we're very grateful indeed.
And I think we'll carry on. We'll certainly try and take this programme out on tour.
Yes, absolutely.
Later, and carry on sharing it widely.
Absolutely, and we're also doing an online version. It will be filmed for those who can't make the venue because it's almost sold out already. It's quite a small venue. So fantastic. We're going to film it, and it will be available online at a later date this year.
Wonderful. Well, that's been really interesting to hear about, and we hope that you can join us either in person or enjoy catching it up online, our musical evening with Queen Charlotte. Thank you.